Hey guys, I'm Brittany Hughes. You're watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. More terrorist attacks hit London yet again over the weekend, at this point surprising exactly no one. And while people were still scraping themselves up off the sidewalk and bandaging their stab wounds, leftist author and all-around bleeding heart Jodi Picoult tweeted this: "When terror attacks happen, I think of the Who's in The Grinch, singing after Christmas is ruined. It isn't fear or hate that changes him, it's love." Because apparently terrorists are no more evil than the fictional cartoon character who took Cindy Lou Who's Christmas presents. So now here's a thought. Maybe the world is rocked by a new terrorist attack every 48 hours, partly because the Katy Perrys and Jodi Picoults of the world are still running around saying that jihadis can be defeated by a global group hug. Maybe we should just bribe ISIS with green eggs and ham until they stop blowing us up. Except we have tried this method. We have tried leading from behind and appeasing the nice terrorists by pandering to their religion. We tried it for 8 years. And it's worked about as well as it did back in World War II when we decided that Poland really wasn't all that important after all. Now, you would think if the left were so concerned about what the weather is going to look like 100 years from now, they would care more about actual people being killed today. So how many people have to be stabbed to death before they start getting serious about this threat? The only solution to defeating terrorists is to stop apologizing for being the most powerful nation on the planet and start eradicating them like the cockroaches that they are. And I don't really care if that offends you, because it's going to be awfully hard to argue with one another when we're all coughing up shrapnel or being run over by a bus. And that's your reality check, America. Subscribe to our YouTube page for more videos just like this one, and make sure that you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and stay sane out there. Hey guys, I'm Brittany Hughes. You're watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. A 19-year-old Pakistani woman was recently sentenced to death by stoning for the crime of being brutally raped at gunpoint by her cousin. According to reports, the woman told her family immediately after the attack and then reported it to her local village court. The court then decided that she had intentionally seduced her cousin, labeled her an adulteress, and sentenced her to either die by stoning or be sold as a slave. And her attacker, on the other hand, was released with no charges. Meanwhile, back in America, black students at Harvard are holding a blacks-only graduation ceremony. Latinos at Princeton are doing the same. Students at Evergreen State College are protesting racism by demanding that white students and faculty stay off of campus for a day. Men are getting booted out of Wonder Woman showings at movie theaters, and feminists aren't marching in the streets demanding justice for Pakistani women because they're too busy screaming about how everyone else should pay for their birth control. Here in this country, the left is actually reviving segregation because they've lost sight of what oppression actually is. So here's what it's not. Oppression is not when the guy who controls your office thermostat cranks it down and you have to put a blanket across your knees. Oppression is not someone telling you that booting all of the white people off college property is actually a really racist jerk move. Oppression is not a debunked gender wage gap or the Wall Street bull or the fact that a man was elected president over a woman. Oppression is being sentenced to death because you were raped by your cousin while he held a gun to your head, and then watching him get let off the hook by a bunch of guys who've labeled you the village whore. And I'll be happy to buy anyone who doesn't believe me a one-way ticket to Pakistan. And that's your reality check, America. Subscribe to our YouTube page for more videos just like this one. Make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and stay sane out there. Hey guys, I'm Brittany Hughes. You're watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. Fresh out of Starbucks windows to smash and cars to set on fire, the left-wing wackos at UC Berkeley are now openly calling for the beheading of conservative students. Here's the message some crazy radical nut job spray painted on a wall on campus, promoting the murder of Berkeley College Republicans. And if it doesn't look like a straight-up death threat to you, I don't know what is. Now, this comes the same week that a video surfaced out of Berkeley showing an Antifa thug smashing a Trump supporter in the head with a bike lock. Oh, and it gets better. When they're not throwing Molotov cocktails at the cops or threatening to lynch people they disagree with, liberal students at Berkeley are now demanding that the school provide them with free abortions at campus health clinics, subsidized by taxpayer money and student fees. Now, what's worse, California is actually considering making this a mandatory requirement for all state colleges and universities. Crazy, right? Now, let me show you where all of this leads. This right here, this is Venezuela, where everything is going to hell in a handbasket thanks to socialism and an all-out war on free speech. Its citizens are starving, elections are a total joke, healthcare is a nightmare, and its water problems make Flint look like a five-star resort. And this is what places like Berkeley inevitably become if they are left unchecked. Giant cesspools of collectivism where all the little robots end up munching on the same equal slice of poverty pie. So now to all of you entitled little Berkeley students who think that the world exists to lick your knockoff combat boots, when you find yourself wallowing in the gutter, gnawing on a half-rotten horse leg and dressed in a dirty nightgown you found in some back alley dumpster, you let me know how all of that social justice worked out for you. And that's your reality check, America. Subscribe to our YouTube page for more videos just like this one. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and stay sane out there. Hey guys, I'm Brittany Hughes. You're watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. So general rule, if you are so much of a whining, dissatisfied left-wing nutball that you rave openly when a football player protests non-existent racial inequality, but you get bent out of shape when the stars and stripes are on display for 2 seconds at a baseball game, you suck. Here's an example. NBC sports writer Craig Calcaterra, who recently complained that displaying the American flag during an American sporting event in America was too political. Now, Calcaterra had no trouble praising Colin Kaepernick for taking a knee during the national anthem to protest, I don't know, something. But when the Atlanta Braves unveiled a gigantic American flag during the national anthem before one of their baseball games this weekend, that apparently crossed a line. And people actually jumped in on Twitter and agreed with him. So now here's a thought. If you are so offended by this nation's flag that you can't stand the sight of it rolled out over a baseball field without losing your mind, allow me to show you the door. How about you head over to Syria? If you're lucky enough to escape being gassed with poisonous chemicals, you'll probably just get blown to smithereens by a random bomb. But hey, better than being here. Or what about Venezuela, where you can stand in line for hours waiting for milk and bread that costs a month's salary because your country's run by a dictator who hates freedom? Or if you want, you're welcome to curse America while starving to death in North Korea. Have at it. There are countless people all over this world desperately trying to get into this country because theirs sucks beyond the telling of it. And they will be happy to take your spot because, again, you suck. So please, go suck elsewhere. And that's your reality check, America. Subscribe to our YouTube page for more videos just like this one. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and stay sane out there. Hey guys, I'm Brittany Hughes. You're watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. Now, it's true, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer came down with a bad case of foot and mouth disease the other day when he suggested that Hitler never used chemical weapons on his own people. And of course, the media seized on these comments like a pack of bloodhounds, using Spicer's gaffe to accuse the White House yet again of anti-Semitism, which is pretty rich coming from a bunch of folks who only seem to care about Jews and genocides when it fits their narrative. For 2 whole months, the media all but ignored the bomb threats being made against dozens of Jewish community centers, at least until they realized that they could use this story as an excuse to bash Trump for not tweeting about it enough. They also either ignored or praised the countless times that President Obama threw Israel under the bus in favor of terrorism-supporting regimes. For years, the media has ignored the mass genocide of Christians in the Middle East, even as hundreds of thousands of them have been murdered or driven from their homes because of their faith. The Palm Sunday massacre of dozens of Coptic Christians in Egypt last week didn't get nearly the media attention that Spicer's gaffe did, and it was never described as a genocide on any of the major networks. They regularly ignored the fact that Hillary Clinton was getting gobs of cash from foreign governments that hate the Jews, oppress non-Muslims, and openly execute gays. They heaped praise on the Women's March while failing to mention that one of its organizers had been convicted of a terrorist bombing on an Israeli supermarket that killed 2 Hebrew students back in 1969. Now, Sean Spicer should not have said what he said. It was an ignorant comment made with little thought, and he's had to eat a lot of crow ever since. But if anyone has the right to call him out for whitewashing genocide, it's certainly not the media. They do it all the time. And that's your reality check, America. Subscribe to our YouTube page for more of MRCTV's videos. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and stay sane out there. Hey guys, I'm Brittany Hughes. You're watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. An undergrad researcher at the University of Wisconsin-Madison has decided that black people are dumber than a sack of rocks and just can't learn English. This social justice warrior, who's white, by the way, says that requiring black students to speak properly is oppressive and discriminatory, and that teachers should start allowing blacks to speak in Ebonics to avoid hurting their feelings. So now I have a question. How big of a hood-wearing, backwards-thinking, racist bigot do you have to be to assume that black people are so stupid that they can't learn proper English? Now, this country has already been down this road. They were called Jim Crow laws, and they were based on the lie that black people were inferior subhumans who were too stupid to do things like vote, attend public school, or run for local office. Now today, this same bigotry fuels the myth that black students can't get into good colleges on their own, so they need a government-funded leg up. Or that black people can't manage to avoid committing crime, so, we should just change our entire criminal justice system instead. Or that black people can't be held responsible for their own sex lives, so we have to open up a Planned Parenthood on every corner and abort all the babies that they're clearly too weak to care for. I would like to point out that we have now had a black president serve not one, but 2 terms in office. We've had black secretaries of state, attorneys general, secretaries of Homeland Security, Grammy Award-winning pop icons and Academy Award-winning actors, superstar athletes and fashion designers, black CEOs, surgeons, philosophers, and rocket scientists, and the list goes on and on and on. Black Americans are just as smart and just as capable as anybody else in this country of taking responsibility for themselves, and they don't require some special accommodation by social justice warriors to succeed in their lives. See, that's the real racism in this country. Racism is not requiring people of color to take responsibility for themselves just like everyone else. Real racism is assuming that they can't. And that's your reality check, America. Make sure that you subscribe to YouTube for more videos just like this one. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and stay sane out there. Hey guys, I'm Brittany Hughes. You're watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. Now, the California cities of Berkeley, Alameda, and Richmond all recently passed resolutions calling for the impeachment of Donald Trump. Berkeley voted on theirs last week, saying that they believe Trump's promise to pull federal funding from sanctuary cities that protect illegal aliens is unethical. Now, along the same lines, the city council in Cambridge, Massachusetts, also a sanctuary city, they're going to vote on a resolution calling for Trump's impeachment early this week. Now, also on their agenda is a discussion on, quote, other specific steps that the city can and should take to protect undocumented persons living in Cambridge during the Trump administration. Yeah, now I don't think these city council members quite understand what a president is. Allow me to help. Contrary to the practices of President Obama, the President of the United States actually has a very specific and limited set of tasks set up by the Constitution. The main one is spelled out in Article 2. It explicitly states that the President shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Now, our laws state that all immigrants who come into this country are required to enter legally. Temporary visitors aren't allowed to stay past their visa expiration date. We also have very specific rules for admitting asylees and refugees. If you come into this country illegally, or if you stay past your allotted time, you are breaking the law and you're subject to removal. You might not like it, but that's the law. And you cannot impeach a president for simply abiding by the very description of his job. By allowing immigration officers to remove people who are living here illegally, Trump is literally doing what the Constitution requires him to do. Now, the fact that it ruffles your feathers or upsets your re-election campaign, that doesn't really matter. You cannot impeach him for that. But as we've clearly seen this past week, you sure can look like a moron for trying. And that's your reality check, America. Subscribe to MRCTV's YouTube page for more videos just like this one. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and stay sane out there. Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Brittany Hughes. You're watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. The Center for Medical Progress is back with a brand new undercover video. This one reveals an abortionist openly admitting to dismembering live preborn babies and denying abortion survivors medical care. And if you haven't seen it, well, that's because it didn't make the news. The same day this video was released, David Daleiden and Sandra Merritt, the folks behind the video, got slapped with 15 felony charges by the state of California for their undercover filming. A charge led by an attorney general whose campaigns have all been funded by, you guessed it, Planned Parenthood. Now here's my question. Where are these reporters screaming that Daleiden and Merritt are being stripped of their First Amendment rights? I mean, that's all we've been hearing for months now, right? Journalists are under fire from the administration, the freedom of the press is under attack. Where are all of these concerned reporters now? An abortionist was caught on tape admitting that she dismembers 6-month-old babies in the womb so they don't come out looking like what they are, babies. She openly states that whether or not a child who is born alive after a botched abortion gets medical care depends on who's in the room at the time, which, by the way, is not only horrific, but a clear violation of state law. And the media is ignoring this. They're too busy running around flipping rocks and looking for Russians and complaining that this administration is keeping them from reporting the facts. Well, here are some facts. Some journalists walked into one of the most dark and secretive places in the country and flipped on a light switch, and they got slapped with criminal charges for their trouble. But screw their freedom of the press because they tipped the liberals' most sacred cow. And the media is not worried about their freedom of the press. If they were, then a self-admitted baby killer and the unjust prosecution of journalists might have caught their attention. No, they're mad because they can no longer spew their narrative all over the place without being challenged. And the day they start doing their jobs is the day that I might start listening to their complaints. And that's your reality check, America. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube page for more videos just like this one. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and stay sane out there. Hey guys, I'm Brittany Hughes. You're watching MRCTV, and Tommy Lahren. This is your reality check. To watch a so-called conservative publicly claim that abortion is acceptable is heartbreaking, dangerously misleading, and it deserves a response. Now, this video might not get me millions of views on Facebook. God knows it won't land me a guest spot on The View. But it may be the most important message I ever give. It is impossible to be both conservative and pro-choice. The two are incompatible. Now, you can be a liberal, of course, you can be a libertarian, you can even be a Republican and be pro-choice, but you cannot be a conservative, and here's why. First, there's a historical precedent for what does and does not constitute a conservative. This is not a choose-your-own-adventure ideology, and these standards do not change based on your truth, what's convenient for your career, or what tickles the ears of your current audience. Conservatives may disagree on many fine points, but the inherent right to life is not negotiable. In fact, it makes up the foundation for all other conservative principles. If a person's life has no value at their earliest and most vulnerable moment, who cares how much you tax them later, or whether they have religious freedom or the right to bear arms? If the basic right to life is not protected by society and by law, then no other conservative value matters. And it's in no way hypocritical for conservatives to believe this. In fact, it lines up perfectly with how we view the role of government. We don't advocate for zero government. That would make us anarchists. Instead, we believe in a limited government, one that does have certain obligations. Among these is the duty to protect our most inalienable right, the right to life. It's why we have laws against walking into someone's house and shooting them in the head. Believing that an unborn child has a right to life does not make conservatives hypocrites. It makes us moral. So, Ms. Lahren, you're entitled to your opinion, and it may make you many things, but you are not a conservative. And you cannot claim to speak for an ideology that you clearly don't agree with and perhaps don't even understand. And no amount of telling people to just get over it on Twitter is going to change that. And to my fellow conservatives, you know the truth. Do not give up this ground, because if we do, I'm not even sure what we're still here for. And that's your reality check. Check us out on YouTube for more of our videos. Like and share on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and pray for an end to abortion. Hey guys, I'm Brittany Hughes. You are watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. It is finally finished, that massive cleanup effort at the site of the Dakota Access Pipeline. Now you remember the drill. An angry mob showed up at the North Dakota site last year to protest the new oil pipeline, which, among other things, was supposed to run under the Cannonball River, create thousands of new jobs, stimulate the local economy, and help put America back on a path to energy independence. And here's how it all turned out. After the hippie horde was ordered to evacuate the campground last month, workers hauled away 835 dumpsters worth of trash, including food containers, bottles, untreated human waste, and even cars. The cleanup effort cost taxpayers $1.1 million. In fact, the project even had to be rushed before melting snow could wash all of this trash into the Cannonball River, the same river the demonstrators were allegedly trying to save in the first place. Volunteers also found 12 dogs that had been abandoned at the campsite and left to fend for themselves. Lovely. So now how did all of that work out? Protesters ended up posing a bigger immediate threat to the Cannonball River's drinking water than the pipeline ever did. And here's the real kicker. On the same day the feds announced that the area had finally been cleared of trash, A judge denied a request by local Native American tribes to halt the pipeline while they appeal its construction. As for the dogs that were left behind, well, volunteers with a local shelter say they're doing just fine and gaining back their weight, finally. 6 have already been adopted, hopefully by nice people who aren't too busy passing the peace pipe to care for them properly. And that's your reality check, America. If you found us on YouTube, like and subscribe for more videos just like this one. Make sure that you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and stay sane out there. Hey guys, I'm Brittany Hughes. You're watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. So here's a shocker. The ACLU held resistance training over the weekend to teach ordinary people how to fight back against President Donald Trump's policies. Agenda items included how to resist immigration enforcement and protect illegal aliens, support Planned Parenthood, and defend Muslim immigrants against Trump's travel ban. So here's the deal. If you are still bent out of shape over the election 4 months later, that's okay. It's a free country and I support your right to be dissatisfied. In fact, provided that you don't impede traffic, block emergency vehicles, and burn down the local Starbucks, I even support your right to peacefully protest, even if I think you look like an idiot for doing it. But here's the tally so far. Left-wingers led a massive protest against Donald Trump on Inauguration Day, complete with profane signs, face masks, and broken windows. And Donald Trump still sworn into office. The next day, more than 1 million women dressed up like vaginas and tromped all around the streets of major cities complaining about, well, we're still not sure about what. The next day, Donald Trump, still president. Next, liberals launched a day without immigrants, which did exactly nothing except ruin a few people's day and get a whole bunch of folks canned from their jobs. The next day, Donald Trump, still president. They held a day without a woman, which again did nothing except keep thousands of children from going to school and force thousands of working mothers to stay at home with their kids. Way to protest those gender norms. And the next day, Donald Trump, still president. So here's a spoiler alert for the next times liberals hold a protest, march, strike, sit in, walk out, stand up, lie down, or whatever other tantrum they decide to throw next. When you finally hang up your picket sign, lay your head down on your patchouli-scented pillow and open up your eyes the next morning, Donald Trump, still going to be president. And that's your reality check, America. If you found us on YouTube, like and subscribe for more videos just like this one. And make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and stay sane out there. Hey guys, I'm Brittany Hughes. You're watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. If you needed another example of how liberal elites are wildly out of touch with the American public, here's one for you. We all know by now that President Trump took to Twitter over the weekend claiming that former President Obama had secretly wiretapped Trump Tower before the election. But rather than focusing on the piles of evidence suggesting that this was actually true, left-wing media talking heads and politicians like Chuck Schumer immediately blasted Trump as some sort of instigator who's now undermining the integrity of the government. But what they missed was that that ship had sailed well past the horizon long ago, and it had nothing to do with Donald Trump. Liberals had no problem with Lois Lerner and the IRS illegally targeted conservative groups for being, well, conservative. The Justice Department shrugged that off like it never happened. And then there's FBI Director James Comey, who stood up in front of the entire nation, admitted point blank that Hillary Clinton had clearly violated the law with her shifty email habits and lied about it, and then he let her get away scot-free. And back before Jeff Sessions was ever falsely labeled a racist bigot who cavorts with Russians, Loretta Lynch was having hush-hush meetings with Bill Clinton in the backseat of a private jet just before the election. Now, she later claimed that the two were just chatting it up about their grandkids, and the media actually bought it. Now, was it the very best idea for Trump to blast this Twitter accusation on a Saturday morning? Arguably not. But Americans had already lost faith in their government a long time ago, and for a million good reasons. In fact, that's why Trump was elected in the first place. So we'll let liberals decide whether they want to be the pot or the kettle on this one. And that's your reality check, America. If you found us on YouTube, make sure that you like and subscribe for more videos just like this one. And don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and stay sane out there. Hey guys, I'm Brittany Hughes. You're watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. After 8 years of oppressive environmental policies that have left a trail of brokenness, unemployment, economic despair, and increased addiction, coal mining is already making a comeback in Appalachia. Things are finally starting to turn around, in part thanks to some measures already taken by President Donald Trump, who recently repealed the EPA's ridiculous stream protection rule. And while coal miners and their families still have a long way to go to climb out of the hole that they've been buried in, coal production has already seen a spike in just the last month. The price of metallurgical coal, the kind that's used to make steel, has doubled since a year ago. Several coal companies have announced plans to open new mines in the next year. Mining officials have said that they're now seeing a new wave of optimism across an industry that's been in the hole for nearly a decade. This is America. It's not falling all over ourselves trying to figure out what pronouns to use. It's not endless debates over bathrooms or making sure that everyone who's living here illegally gets free health care and a college degree. America is about making sure that our citizens have good jobs and the opportunity to succeed. It's not about handing them free stuff. It's about creating a country in which hardworking men and women are free to make a better life for themselves and their children. It's the coal miner who gets up every day, heads out to a 12-hour shift, and comes home proud that he can pay his own mortgage. It's the local shop owner who keeps the family business running because the government isn't in her way. It's the people in West Virginia and Kentucky and all across this country who voted on November 8th for the chance to succeed on their own, for themselves. You can keep your pronouns. I'll take this America any day. And that's your reality check, America. If you found us on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe for more videos just like this one. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And stay sane out there. Hey guys, welcome back to MRCTV. I am Brittany Hughes, and this is your reality check. A video popped up on Twitter over the weekend out of Rochester, New York, where apparently this happened. While you resist the urge to pour bleach in your own eyes, imagine if that white male police officer had said or done anything to this little group of idiots for dancing like a bunch of 2-cent strippers on the hood of his police car. He'd immediately be labeled a racist, accused of police brutality, his face would get smeared all over Facebook, his family would start getting death threats, and he'd be lucky to get by with just getting fired. This footage would be all over the news. Al Sharpton would be up in arms. So instead, this happens. Instead of working to establish good relationships with the police, or solving fatherlessness in black communities, or striving to decrease black-on-black violence in Chicago, this is how anti-cop idiots protest the police, by gyrating all over a cop car. Meanwhile, a total of 21 police officers have been killed in the line of duty in just the first 2 months of 2017. Of those, 6 officers were shot, 1 was killed by vehicular assault, and 1 was beaten to death. Another drowned trying to rescue a drunk woman from a river in freezing temperatures. Another 6 were killed in car or motorcycle accidents while on patrol. But instead of honoring the sacrifice that these men and women make on a daily basis, thanks to social justice warriors, it's now acceptable to use a police car as a dance pole. And then these disrespectful morons wonder why no one with half a brain and an ounce of self-respect takes them seriously. Newsflash, this is why. And that's your reality check, America. Make sure you check us out on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and stay sane out there. Hey guys, I'm Brittany Hughes. You are watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. Fun story, Vice published an article this week suggesting that liberals are so depressed over President Donald Trump that they may actually be at the risk of committing suicide because they no longer feel that they have a place in America. And apparently we're all supposed to feel really, really bad for them. So since we're now caring and sharing, let me tell you how this makes me feel. Conservatives spent the last 8 years dealing with your bullcrap, and you never worried about any of us. You didn't feel bad for us when progressive agendas were getting rammed down our throats on a daily basis. In fact, you reveled in how Obama was sticking it to all those hateful conservatives, so you will forgive me if I don't plan to cry over your current mental state. So if you are living in this country illegally and now you're afraid you might be held accountable for breaking our immigration laws, I don't feel bad for you. If you're a criminal alien gang member who has offed someone and now you're getting booted, I definitely don't feel bad for you. If you're a man who thinks he's a woman and now you're pissed because Trump isn't forcing public schools to accommodate your bathroom preferences, I don't feel bad for you. If you're a college student with a useless degree who's upset that you might actually have to pay back your own student loans, I don't feel bad for you. If you're a journalist who thinks that the freedom of the press is being attacked simply because Sean Spicer calls on town hall ahead of the New York Times, I don't feel bad for you. And if no one has ever informed you that the sun and the moon do not revolve around your precious feelings, if you are so depressed over Donald Trump that you have lost the ability to function, I don't feel bad for you. And that's your reality check, America. Stay sane out there. Hey guys, I'm Brittany Hughes. You're watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. I'd like you to meet Chicago's latest shooting victims. This is 11-year-old Takia Holmes, who died on Tuesday morning after being shot in the head while sitting with her family in a minivan. Her killer was 19-year-old Antoine Jones, a gangbanger who accidentally hit her while trying to shoot rival gang members on a street corner. That same day, 2-year-old Levante White was shot and killed while sitting in a car with his pregnant mother and his uncle. On Wednesday, 12-year-old Kanari Bowers died in a Chicago hospital after being shot in the back. So while liberals were busy storming about college campuses wearing white puzzle pieces on their jackets to raise awareness of white privilege this week, 3 young children died from gun violence in Chicago in just 2 days. I guess it's more politically correct to focus on empty left-wing activism than to actually start solving these problems. But all of the white privilege classes in the world will not stop children like these from getting shot in their own neighborhoods unless we start having serious, honest discussions in this country about the real problems in black communities. So now let's talk about the liberal policies that have absolutely wrecked these neighborhoods. Let's talk about the cycles of government dependence and poverty that create high levels of violence. Let's talk about how, if left-wing policies worked so well for black people, why is it that this city, which has been controlled by liberal politicians for decades, can't prevent 2-year-old kids from being killed in drive-by gang shootings? Or is it just easier to rant and rave whenever a racist conservative shows up on your campus and says something you don't like? It's hard to accept responsibility and start making some real changes. It's easier to just make a hashtag. But that's a coward's way of addressing racial problems in this country. It ultimately solves nothing. And kids like Takia, Kanari, and Levante are the ones who pay the price. And that's your reality check, America. Stay sane out there. Hey guys, I'm Brittany Hughes. You're watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. The 59th Grammy Awards aired on Sunday night, and just like that, liberals proved yet again that only some black lives actually matter. Beyoncé took to the stage and immediately started making waves, all thanks to her very pregnant belly sticking through her entirely see-through dress. Her bizarre performance openly centered around motherhood and childbearing, even depicting scenes from the Last Supper as some sort of weird Mary Christ child metaphor. And liberals lost their minds, raving about how awesome it is that a strong female celebrity was so openly honoring pregnancy. So here's the irony. A half-naked black woman parades around in a ridiculous costume on a stage in front of thousands of people, and suddenly motherhood is valuable. But a black woman in Chicago has an unplanned pregnancy, and that baby is now expendable. Is that woman not empowered by motherhood? Is her baby somehow less valuable because its mother isn't a pop star? Planned Parenthood alone aborts tens of thousands of black children every single year, a disproportionate number. 80% of their abortion mills are purposefully located in low-income minority neighborhoods, limiting how many future little Beyoncés and Jay-Z's are ever even given a chance at life. So now let's get real about which black lives matter in this country. According to the left, if you're a black child, you only matter if you're wanted, if your mom is famous, if your family isn't poor, and if you weren't conceived 3 blocks from the nearest abortion clinic. You only matter if you can be held up as some symbol of African American heritage or paraded around as an icon of female empowerment. You matter if you're a political prop used by liberal politicians who care more about their re-election campaign than your life. If you are a black child in America, congratulations, you matter. Sometimes. And that's your reality check, America. Stay sane out there. Hey guys, I'm Brittany Hughes. You're watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. So now let me show you what not having border security looks like. This is the body of a man who was found dead after crossing the U.S.-Mexico border illegally last year. Now, he likely died from dehydration, and by the time anybody found him, his body had been almost completely devoured by coyotes. But stories like this one are usually ignored by those who protest President Trump's call for more border security. Now, this includes a company called 84 Lumber, which just created a pro-illegal immigration ad for the Super Bowl. The unaired 5-minute ad shows the journey of a young Central American girl and her mother who attempt to cross the U.S. border illegally. Full of tears, dust, and bleeding heart imagery, it's clearly designed to make us feel for the plight of those who simply want to come to the United States and make a better life. But this is not only deceptive, it's despicable. And here's why. Last Friday, Customs and Border Protection rescued 3 adults and a child from drowning in the Rio Grande as they tried to get into the United States. And incidents like these happen almost daily at our border. Agents recovered 54 bodies of illegal aliens in Brooks County, Texas alone last year. The problem is so bad, in fact, that Chief Deputy Sheriff Benny Martinez told Congress that Brooks County spends half of its annual budget just on recovering the bodies of illegal aliens. A medical examiner in Arizona reported that the bodies of 850 men, women, and children who died trying to cross the border unlawfully now lie frozen and unidentified in a morgue in Tucson. This is a well-documented and tragic reality. It's perpetuated by our own immigration system and lack of border security. False narratives like the one in 84 Lumber's ad encourage people to risk their lives and the lives of their children to come here unlawfully. And many of them don't make it. Any company that twists and exploits this story to make a profit is not courageous. It's manipulative and it's deadly. And that's your reality check, America. Stay sane out there. Hey guys, I'm Brittany Hughes. You're watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. A bunch of snowflakes, we'll call these ones yellow snowflakes, freaked out at UC Berkeley on Wednesday night, all because somebody came to campus to say some things that they didn't like. And what have we learned over the past 3 years in America? That whenever a snowflake gets their itty-bitty baby feelings hurt, the appropriate response is apparently to scrawl profanity on a homemade sign, chuck some rocks at the cops, and burn down a local coffee shop. Now, these criminals smashed ATMs and busted bank windows, looted a Starbucks, set a bunch of fires, beat a man unconscious, spray-painted "Kill Trump" on local buildings, launched pepper spray, toppled a light pole, and threw rocks and firebombs at the police. Lovely. Now, I have never been so insecure in my own beliefs that I have to scream and throw Molotov cocktails when I don't get my way, but clearly Berkeley is full of pathetic cowards with an extreme deficiency of big boy pants. The college that once peacefully marched in the 60s in favor of free speech is now rioting to protest free speech. These people are so crazy, in fact, that it doesn't even do any good to speak to them. So I'm instead going to address the sane people in the audience who might still have 3 or 4 brain cells floating around between their ears. Do not pretend that what happened last night was anything close to a tolerable protest. Do not accept this in your community as normative. I don't care if you love Donald Trump or hate him with a fiery passion. Every single one of these thugs should be locked up in prison and charged with felony rioting, assault, destruction of public property, and anything else we can come up with. Cut off the funding to their college. Send in the National Guard. I don't care. But it is time for the adults in the room to stop kowtowing to the toddlers. So let's start throwing the book at these idiots and get it under control. And that's your reality check, America. Stay sane out there. Hey everybody, I'm Brittany Hughes. You're watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. So thousands of protesters swarmed airports over the weekend after a few hundred immigrants from Middle Eastern countries got held up at customs following an executive order from President Donald Trump. But before you grab your homemade sign, rush to the nearest airport, and get pepper sprayed in the face, let's review some of the facts. This is not a hashtag Muslim ban. It's a brief pause on refugees from 7 countries that were designated by the Obama administration as being dangerous to the United States. There are more than 40 other Muslim-majority countries that did not make this list. By the way, this is not the first time this has happened. President Obama placed a 6-month ban on Iraqi refugees back in 2011. And no one said a word. Where was Chuck Schumer's moral outrage then? Also, nothing in this executive order mentions permanent lawful residents, students, temporary workers, or persons who have already been vetted. How do I know this? Because I actually read it myself. Now, this was at best a botched rollout of a poorly worded order. It was too vague and too fast. It wasn't thoroughly thought out. What actually happened at the airports did not match up with what the executive order actually said. And additionally, the Trump administration could have paused the refugee program while at the same time taking steps to protect vulnerable people still stuck in Syria. They didn't. But in order to solve these problems and help people displaced by war, Our discussion has to be based on facts, not random tweets or clickbait headlines from the Huffington Post. Logic must prevail over knee-jerk emotion. But unfortunately, liberals seem to react first and think later. Now, if this includes you, maybe your first response should not always be to freak out and grab your picket sign before bothering to educate yourself. Because this looks a lot less like trying to help people in crisis and a lot more like giving yourself a soapbox so you can scream about something and feel relevant, and you look ridiculous doing it. And that's your reality check, America. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and stay sane out there. Hey guys, I'm Brittany Hughes. You're watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. Now, I haven't always been a huge fan of Donald Trump, but he's been in office less than a week, and he's already pissing off feminists, and that pretty much gets my vote. Perhaps the most important step he's taken so far happened last Monday when he reinstated the Mexico City policy, which bans American taxpayer dollars from going to fund overseas organizations that provide abortions. But there's another segment of the population that disagrees with this, and they all showed up to tell us last Saturday, dressed like vaginas and parading around with profane signs. These women took to the streets of Washington, D.C. and dozens of other cities and have been blowing up social media with senseless ranting ever since, primarily regarding abortion rights. Now, I'm vocal on this issue. I believe that life begins at conception and that it's worth protecting. And so far, because of these beliefs, I've been called a misogynist, an idiot, and even the spawn of Satan for daring to disagree with the modern feminist line. I've been cussed out on Facebook because I don't think that dismembering a baby at 20 weeks is remotely acceptable. I've been attacked on Twitter for believing that living children matter. So I have a message too for all those nasty women who think that they speak for my gender. You have the right to protest, but you look like a moron. You're an embarrassment to those women who once actually marched for civil rights, and you're an embarrassment to this country, which was founded on the very right to life and which gives you the right to be such a shrieking banshee. The only reason that I'm not personally embarrassed by you is because I know countless women who also think you look ridiculous parading around in a giant vagina costume, thinking that you represent anything other than your own baseless victim complex. You do not speak for me. You do not speak for the millions of pro-life women across this nation, or, for that matter, those who own guns, don't hate men, and still retain some semblance of class. You do not speak for us. And that's your reality check, America. Follow us on Facebook, like us on Twitter, and stay sane out there. Hey guys, I'm Brittany Hughes. You're watching MRCTV, and this is your reality check. So somebody must have handed out rose-colored glasses during Obama's farewell speech in Chicago last night, and the rest of us just, didn't get any? People boo-hooed and cheered as Obama reminisced about the glory days of Yes, We Can, and of course talked about how awesomely fantastic everything's been for the last 8 years. Of course, all due to him and his amazing policies, and no thanks to those dirty, rotten Republicans in Congress who dared to disagree with him. In a sermon sure to send one last tingle up Chris Matthews' leg, Obama claimed to have boosted the economy and save it from the recession. Of course, he left out the part where he oversaw the slowest, weakest economic recovery in American history and racked up another $10 trillion in national debt. He took credit for creating the lowest unemployment rate in history without ever mentioning that a record 95 million Americans are currently not participating in the workforce. That's more than the population of Texas, California, New York, and Virginia combined. But you wouldn't know that according to Obama's speech. Now, of course, we've also added another 18 million people to our food stamp program. Fewer Americans own their own homes today than when Obama was first elected in 2008. Obama praised his own health care law and ignored the millions of Americans who've lost their doctors and their health insurance plans thanks to his agenda. Obama claimed to have established better relations with Cuba just one day after his own border agents released a statement saying that they're apprehending increasing numbers of Cuban illegal aliens. Obama took credit for victories against ISIS without ever admitting his failed foreign policies are what helped create ISIS in the first place. He claimed that no foreign terrorist group successfully planned and carried out an attack on America in the last 8 years. That was a lie. Here's a newsflash to the guy who still can't choke out the words radical Islam. All of those lone wolf attacks that you blame on guns, those are the new attacks from foreign terrorist groups. ISIS doesn't have to plan a mass-scale bombing or hijack a whole bunch of planes anymore. All they have to do is exploit our president's immigration policies, get inside the head of a pissed-off Muslim, and point him to a nice gun-free zone. It's a pattern that we've seen over and over again under Obama's 8-year term. But here was the real zinger of the night. Obama actually claimed that race relations have improved under his presidency. Maybe he should try that line on all of the store clerks whose windows have been kicked in the last 3 years. Tell that to all the people whose businesses have been looted and whose life savings have been lost because a bunch of thugs felt so oppressed that they had to destroy an entire community. Tell that to the families of all of the dead cops who've been shot to death just for doing their jobs. In fact, tell that to your own hometown of Chicago, which has been so destroyed by anti-black liberal policies that it's now suffering under the highest homicide rates in 20 years. African Americans in your own hometown can't even pull themselves out of the cycle of dependency, poverty, and despair that you and those like you have created with all of your social welfare policies. Yet Obama stood on a stage in the middle of a community that's dying by the thousands and said we should widen the safety net of government dependency even more. Oh, but we don't want to talk about those inconvenient truths now, do we? No. Instead, Obama used his final speech to claim that a 20-year-old college student today is somehow still affected by Jim Crow laws, that Americans shouldn't be worried about an influx of Muslim refugees and illegal aliens, and that the government should mandate that men who wear high heels and lipstick be normalized and accepted, that Congress should pass progressive policies or risk our very democracy, and that those responsible folks who work hard for their money should make sure that those who don't work still have equal access to all the expensive programs they need. This is exactly what America just voted against. This is the worldview and the dogma that they just kicked out of office. And this is what we will not miss after the final moving truck exit the White House driveway. Goodbye, Mr. President, and frankly, good riddance. And that's your Reality Check, America. Check us out on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and stay sane out there.